For many fans, the story of Power Rangers feels familiar. Bright costumes, clear heroes, and memories tied to a specific moment in time. But the stories we tell most often are the ones that stay on screen. What happens after fame fades is rarely revisited, especially when the endings are quiet. Some actors found new purpose far from the spotlight. Some tried to reinvent themselves in an industry that had already moved on, and others slowly disappeared from public view altogether, even as their work continued to live on. This chapter looks at what happened next, the lives of more Power Rangers actors after the cameras stopped rolling, and the paths they were forced to navigate once the franchise moved forward without them. By the mid to late 1990s, Power Rangers had firmly established itself as a rotating franchise. New teams arrived, old ones exited, and the show continued almost uninterrupted. From the outside, it appeared seamless, a successful formula repeating itself year after year. For the actors involved, however, that structure created a very specific reality. Unlike long-running television series where casts grow together over time, Power Rangers was designed to refresh constantly. Contracts were short, transitions were fast, and once a season ended, attention shifted immediately to whoever came next. There was rarely a moment to process what had just happened, let alone prepare for what followed. Many of the actors who stepped away during this period did so while still very young. They carried public recognition, but not necessarily public opportunity. Casting agents saw familiar faces tied to a specific genre. Audiences remembered the characters, not always the performers themselves. For some, this meant stepping back intentionally, choosing education, personal life, or entirely different careers. For others, it meant trying to remain visible in an industry that no longer knew where to place them. As time passed, the distance between their on-screen legacy and their real lives grew wider. Public appearances became less frequent. Interviews faded, and slowly, many of these familiar faces slipped out of everyday conversation. Yet their stories did not end when the spotlight moved on. They continued, shaped by reinvention, resilience, and the difficult reality of being remembered for something that no longer defined who they were becoming. Ricardo Medina Jr.'s story reflects how quickly life after early fame can become complicated when the structure of the entertainment industry falls away. As part of Power Rangers, he stepped into a role that carried instant visibility and recognition. For audiences, his character represented confidence and strength, and for a time, it appeared that his career might continue steadily beyond the series. Like many actors associated with a successful franchise, Ricardo experienced the sudden shift that followed once his time on the show ended. The rhythm of auditions, public attention, and professional momentum changed almost overnight. While the recognition remained, consistent opportunities did not always follow, creating a gap between how he was remembered and how he was able to move forward. As the years passed, his life became increasingly private. Public appearances grew less frequent, and the distance between his on-screen image and real-world circumstances widened. For someone who had entered the industry at a young age, navigating adulthood outside the structure of a major production brought challenges that were not immediately visible to fans. Ricardo's later years were marked by personal struggles that eventually drew public attention in ways no performer ever expects. The situation served as a reminder that the transition away from fame can leave individuals without the support systems necessary to handle mounting pressure. The visibility that once brought opportunity can, under difficult circumstances, amplify personal crises rather than protect against them. His story is often discussed with complexity and reflection, not because of a single moment, but because it highlights how fragile life after early recognition can be. Ricardo Medina Jr. journey underscores an uncomfortable reality of the entertainment world. Fame may open doors, but it does not guarantee stability, guidance, or protection once the spotlight moves on. For many fans, his story remains a sobering reminder that the people behind beloved characters continue living real, complicated lives long after the screen fades to black. Erin Cahill's journey offers a perspective that contrasts sharply with many of the more difficult post-fame stories associated with Power Rangers. When she joined the series, she stepped into an already established universe with a passionate fan base and clear expectations. Her presence on screen was marked by confidence and composure, and she quickly became recognized for bringing a grounded, capable energy to her role. Unlike many performers who found themselves defined by a single character, Erin approached her time on the show as one chapter rather than a final destination. After her role concluded, she made deliberate choices about how she wanted her career to evolve. Instead of chasing constant visibility, she focused on longevity, versatility, and personal balance. The transition away from Power Rangers still came with challenges. Being associated with a well-known franchise can create assumptions that are difficult to escape, and early recognition does not always translate into immediate opportunity. Erin navigated this period with patience, gradually building a career that extended across television, film, and other creative work. Over time, she continued working steadily, often in roles that differed significantly from her earlier image. This ability to adapt helped her avoid the stagnation that many actors face after leaving a major franchise. Just as importantly, she maintained a sense of separation between her public career and her private life, allowing space for personal growth outside the industry's constant demands. Erin's story highlights a quieter form of resilience. Rather than being shaped entirely by early fame, she used it as a foundation while remaining flexible about her future. Her journey reflects what can happen when performers are able to redefine success on their own terms, not by clinging to the past, but by allowing their careers and identities to evolve naturally over time. Amy Jo Johnson's story reflects a thoughtful and intentional approach to life after early fame. As one of the most recognizable faces from Power Rangers, she became closely associated with a character that resonated deeply with audiences. Her role helped to define the emotional tone of the early series, and her on-screen presence made her one of the most remembered performers from the franchise's original era. With that recognition came the challenge of expectation. Like many actors who become widely known at a young age, Amy was faced with the question of whether to remain tied to a single identity or to explore broader creative possibilities. Rather than attempting to repeat the same success, she chose a path that emphasized personal expression and growth. After stepping away from Power Rangers, Amy continued working in television and film, but she also expanded her creative focus beyond acting. Over time, she explored music, writing, and directing, gradually reshaping her relationship with the industry. This shift allowed her to engage with her work in ways that felt more authentic and sustainable, rather than driven solely by public recognition. Her journey was not defined by constant visibility, but by steady reinvention. She embraced the freedom to move between creative disciplines, demonstrating that early fame does not have to limit long-term identity. Amy Jo Johnson's later years illustrate the value of choosing fulfillment over expectation. While she remains fondly remembered for for her role on Power Rangers, her legacy extends beyond it. Her story stands as an example of how performers can honor the past while continuing to grow, create, and redefine success on their own terms. Walter Emanuel Jones's journey highlights another side of life after early fame, one shaped by visibility, responsibility, and the challenge of being seen beyond a defining role. As one of the original cast members of Power Rangers, he helped establish the identity of the series from its very first episodes. His character brought energy, confidence, and a sense of approachability that resonated strongly with audiences, especially during the show's formative years. Being part of the original team meant that Walter's face became instantly familiar to millions of viewers. With that recognition came public expectations that extended far beyond. For many fans, he represented a symbol of strength and positivity, an image that followed him long after his time on the show ended. After leaving Power Rangers, Walter continued to explore creative opportunities, but like many early franchise actors, he encountered the limitations that can come with strong typecasting. Moving forward required patience and adaptability, as the industry often struggled to separate the performer from the iconic role audiences remembered. In the years that followed, Walter diversified his creative path, working across different areas of entertainment and maintaining a presence that allowed him to stay connected to his audience without being confined to a single identity. He remained engaged with fans, acknowledging the importance of the franchise while also asserting his individuality beyond it. His experience reflects the complexity of balancing legacy with personal growth. Early fame can open doors, but it can also narrow perception. Walter Emanuel Jones's journey shows the importance of persistence and self-definition, choosing to honor the past without being limited by it, and continuing forward in a way that aligns with both personal values and long-term resilience. Johnny Yang Bosch's story represents one of the most deliberate and successful reinventions to come out of Power Rangers. When he joined the series, he entered an already established world with a devoted audience and strong expectations. His performance brought a distinctive energy that connected quickly with viewers, and his time on the show made him a familiar face to fans of the franchise. Like many actors who experience early recognition, Johnny eventually faced the question of how to move forward without being confined to a single role. Rather than attempting to replicate his Power Rangers' success in similar on-screen performances, he chose a different path, one that allowed him to remain creative while expanding beyond the limits of traditional casting. After stepping away from the franchise, Johnny focused heavily on voice acting, an area of the industry that offered both longevity and creative freedom. This shift proved pivotal. It allowed him to build an entirely new career identity, separate from his earlier fame, while still drawing on his performance skills. Over time, his voice work reached audiences who were often unaware of his Power Rangers past. This transition required patience and consistency. Voice acting is a competitive field, and success rarely arrives overnight. Johnny's willingness to start again, take smaller opportunities, and steadily develop his craft became the foundation of his long-term stability in the industry. His journey stands as a powerful example of adaptation. Instead of resisting change or clinging to past recognition, he embraced reinvention. Johnny Yang Bosch's story illustrates how early fame does not have to define an entire career. With intention and persistence, it can become a stepping stone rather than a limitation, allowing growth, sustainability, and a lasting creative presence well beyond the original spotlight. When these 5 stories are viewed together, a broader pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Fame arrived early, and with incredible speed, placing each of these actors into public view long before life had fully taken shape. The visibility was intense, but the support structures behind it were often limited, temporary, or entirely absent. Long-term stability was never guaranteed, even for those whose faces became instantly recognizable to millions of viewers around the world. The Power Rangers franchise created heroes for an entire generation. It delivered characters who represented teamwork, courage, responsibility. Yet once the cameras stopped rolling, the individuals behind those characters were frequently left navigating adulthood on their own, carrying experiences few people around them could fully understand or relate to. Across these 5 journeys, different responses emerged. Some found ways to adapt, redefining success on their own terms and discovering new creative or personal paths. Some carried the weight quietly, choosing privacy over visibility while rebuilding their lives away from constant attention. Others encountered challenges that reshaped their futures entirely, long after public focus had moved elsewhere. None of these outcomes reflect failure. They reflect reality. What matters is that none of this diminishes their impact. The work these actors contributed continues to reach new audiences decades later. Their characters remain part of cultural memory, passed down through reruns, streaming platforms, conventions, and shared nostalgia. For many viewers, those performances still represent comfort, inspiration, and a sense of belonging tied to a specific moment in time. Their later years remind us of something essential. Fame is not a destination. It is often a moment in time, powerful and brief, frequently followed by uncertainty and reinvention. What happens afterward is rarely as visible, but it is just as significant. The legacy of Power Rangers endures because of the people who brought it to life. Their performances mattered, and their experiences offer lessons that extend far beyond a single television show or era. Behind every costume was a real person navigating pressure, expectation, and change. And as the spotlight moved on, their lives continued, shaped by resilience, choice, and the realities that followed success. Sure, in the next video, this series continues by exploring more Power Rangers actors whose post-fame journeys followed very different paths, some toward reinvention and others toward quiet disappearance. If these stories resonate with you, stay connected, because many more chapters remain, and many voices still deserve to be remembered.